Let's review this video of Vivi from last year and doing the starting block technique. And the reason why we're going to review it again is this is a little bit different than the last one I showed you last time, because I want to go over a few things that'll help us out as we begin moving into doing our starting mechanics. Let's look at it first in full speed, and then we'll slow it down a bit so you guys can kind of get an idea of some of the things I'm looking for. She does most things pretty well. There's a couple small errors that she makes. However, they're not glaring, but I still want to get you in good position. Two main things. First to remember is that we want to be sure that the front arm is straight up and down, meaning the front arms, the arms that are holding her body up. Obviously, the hands are going to be directly beneath the shoulders, and she's pretty well straight up and down. I would like to see her shoulders back maybe a few inches, because the further forward that you push your shoulders past your hands, that takes weight off of your feet. But you'll see as she rises up into a standing position that she should still be pretty much up, and the shoulders should drift back slightly, as you can see. So right now she's pretty much straight up and down, which is pretty good. That helps to load some more pressure on both blocks. One area that she does make a mistake, we'd like to see a little bit better for us as well, is to remember that we need to have pressure on the front and rear block. As you can see, there's a little bit of space right there on her rear heel, and we want to try to correct that if at all possible, so we can have a little bit more of a reflex action. As you can see here now, the hips are above the shoulders, okay? So we don't ever want to stop our set position here. A lot of times you'll see folks will stop their set position here, and that's incorrect. They need to be above. Once those hips are above, then we can set up our proper knee angles. Front knee is about 90 degrees. So if we look at the femur bone of our front leg, which is about here, and we look at the tibial bone, it's probably right about here of her front leg. So she's probably, close to 100. So that's not bad. She probably could be a little deeper, but nonetheless, that's pretty good. And of course, the rear leg is going to be about 120 degrees or so. So the rear leg, look at her angle. No, that's a bad line. Let's try again. The rear leg angle is probably right about there. So give or take, probably a little bit more than that. So I'm not getting the lines right, but nonetheless, so we get a good idea. That's a little bit better. Get an idea of where her legs should be, about 120 degrees, as you can see. So that's where it should be. As she takes her start, as she responds to the gun, you notice that both legs are driving back. Look at the back heel. At this point, now you'll see that there's pressure, and that back heel's hitting the rear block, which is what it should be doing. Secondly, as that leg moves forward, notice that the heel does not rise up. It goes straight ahead. One of the biggest mistakes young sprinters make is they let the heel come up this way, and that is a mistake. We want to be sure that as the athlete moves, the hips move forward and the heel moves forward. We do not want the heel to go higher than the line of her opposite knee, as you can see from here. See, nice and low heel recovery. Then as she hits here, by the time she's at full foot support, she's not quite to full foot support yet. Right about there, she's at full foot support, where all of her weight is on the balls of her feet. And she's just slightly overstriding, but it's close enough. So I want to have both the knees together. And what I look for is the angle of her chest. So if we look at where her chest is, the angle of her chest or spine should be about the same as the angle of her front shin. In this case, the angle of the front shin is probably just a little bit greater than the angle of her chest, which means she's slightly overstriding. So we want to work a little bit on that, just so she's slightly catching her foot. Not bad, but it is a bit of an overstride. So we want to be sure that we're driving down from the head. As you guys may remember, I've always said that. Drive down from the head. Because the body's bent forward, you're driving down from the head. That will necessarily mean that you're going to be pushing backwards. Not because you're pulling. Never pull with the legs this way. Always drive straight down from the head. As your body rises, of course, it'll be driving straight down more into the track, but in this case, down from the head. The other thing we want to be sure that we do, number one, push hard the front block so those hips move forward. Hips moving forward, and we want to get that rear leg, or in this case, the front leg, which becomes the rear as you push hard, to be extended straight, completely straight. Every step, her next step, same thing, extended completely straight. Okay? Sometimes we don't drive as hard as we should, and we don't get the good straight extension. We'll talk more about the arms later, but the biggest thing I want to work on is being sure that the humerus bones are parallel, so that way we know we have a big arm split. This is the only time I want to be able to see the hands, is at the beginning of the run. And then from there we continue to drive down. She's slightly casting the foot here. That's one of her mistakes that she made, is that she slightly tends to overstride just a bit. But nonetheless, it's important to remember that you cannot apply power until your feet are beneath your hips. As you can see here, there's her hips and there are her feet. Her feet are actually slightly behind the hips, and that's good position. So that's where we need to be. If the feet were to land in front of the hips like that, she would then have to try to pull herself through, and that's a bad position, and it is always too slow. She will not be able to apply power until those hips are above or slightly in front of her feet. Again here, boom. See where her hips are? Slightly above or slightly in front of her feet. Until you get there, you cannot apply power. So at this point of the race, power, more than quickness, is the most important part of getting a good start.